need. So now the next step was to just actually create the URL, and I decided to use the JavaScript encode URI function, and that will allow me to URI encode all of the data, so that way I will have no parsing issues. It just comes through. And then I just created the object. So now all I have to do is wait, and that's the beauty of it. You know, you launch an attack, and you make it look as good as you can, and you just sit back and wait and watch your HTTP logs, and you just, once they click that link, you know, you'll see a log in your web server logs with the session identification. Then I take that session token, put it into the Burp suite, connect to the web interface, and bypass the login. I put together a quick video outlining this entire process. Just give me 1 second.
Escape. And then
Just minimize it.
minimize. Yeah, the window. It's on the desktop. You just drag the window to the left, the right pane.
Mm-hmm. Where'd the cursor go? Yeah.
Drag it over to the right.
I have no mouse.
That's odd.
You can quit it.
Do you still need that?
No, you can kill the VM. Oh, I think the VM took your mouse. Yeah, there you go. Cool. The VM captured his mouse.
Y'all see that okay? So there's the admin user just logging in real quick, and there's the Java interface. Narrates itself. Is the phishing attack? All admins fall for free Jonas Brothers tickets, I swear. So it's strange. He clicks the link, nothing happens. If you're not familiar with burp, this is a find and replace method on any cookie value. I'm just going to force it to that session ID. Now I'm going to navigate to the main page. Yep. Logged in with no credentials. Like I said, it's quick and easy and dirty, but it works.
So what we just saw is he used the XSS to basically capture the session credentials from the administrator that were cached, and now leverage those credentials to get an administrative session to the McAfee NSDM console.
Correct.
The question was that reflected XSS, and yes.
All right, moving on, I just want to start talking about Cisco's adaptive security appliance now. Before I said when you start putting a whole lot of features into one single appliance, it starts opening the threat surface up. And I won't beat this to death because Jeff, I think, gave a really good explanation on what these systems can do. I just want to point out that it has a really nice web interface for clientless VPN. We'll touch back with that in 2 seconds. During a recent PCI audit, I ran into a client running one of these, and I wasn't too familiar with the web interface, so I started really banging on it. And I discovered that it was vulnerable to HTTP response splitting. You don't find it too often these days. Most web servers kind of validate this correctly. The basic gist of it is when you submit an HTTP request, you can inject a character return and line feed character into the URL. Sometimes that web server will parse that and treat those character return and line feeds just as they are. And anything following them in the URL will then be injected into HTTP headers that were going back to the client. Well, this could be a very bad thing. We don't necessarily want this to occur. This could allow an attacker to inject any arbitrary header they want. When we're using HTTP response splitting, there's one header that is more useful than any of the other ones. That's the location header. If the HTTP server is already feeding a redirect back to the client, you can change the location field. And the way this works is a lot of times you'll have a web server where you go to an authenticated page without using SSL, and it forces you to the SSL version of that site. Well, they're using a redirect there, or a 301 redirect, or a 302 redirect. So it's very common. But if the web server is vulnerable to HTTP response splitting, it'd be trivial to change the location of where that client's being redirected to. The Cisco ASA is vulnerable to this, or was vulnerable to this, I should say. When a user connects to the web VPN component to log in, the first thing that happens if they're not already using SSL is they're redirected to the secure page. An attacker could very easily use a phishing attack, send out, hey, on the IT, this is the new link, you need to go here instead. Users just follow that link. And now the web server component of the ASA will parse that link, act on the character return line feed, and inject the new location header the attacker has injected into their URL. So now the attacker has complete control over where your browser is going. So in the case that I was doing, I created an identical website to look just like the login page of this particular client. So when you follow the link, it happens so fast you don't even realize that you're not where you're supposed to be. So at this point, I had my own custom JavaScript on the page, so I could harvest their login credentials and then redirect them and send their post request back to the original ASA, so they would authenticate and not have any idea what was occurring. But now I can authenticate as them too. Not a great idea. All right, so in this slide here, we can see an evil GET request. And the first two characters that are in hex there are the character return line feed. Follow that is the new location header, and this one's not so evil because it's only going to send them to Google. This slide here shows the two location headers, and this is important because it's kind of confusing which one's going to work. Well, anytime this occurs, there can only ever be one location header. So the last one is always going to win, which is fortunate for us because when we inject it, it will always be the last one. So you can see down on the body there, the location header is moving to Google instead of where they expect it to. So in conclusion, creating a complex system is hard. There's lots of hurdles to get software to actually function, let alone be secure. So what do? I mean, when we deploy these types of systems, we have to test them. Far too often, these security devices are deployed within networks and just never even looked at a second time. The next time you're going to be purchasing a device like this, ask a vendor for a demo. A lot of times they'll give you 60 days to make sure it works within your environments. Hit it with a vulnerability scanner. If it's got a web interface, hit it with a scanner. Learn the protocols it uses. Fuzz them. See if it'll stand up. Port scan it. There's a lot of ports in these devices that are open that really should they be? Probably not. So I would highly recommend working with your vendors to try to figure out, you know, a better way to do this and to really make a better product. I had the fortunate luck of working with McAfee directly and fixing their issue, and they were great to work with. They wanted to know more information. They wanted me to help validate a patch, like everything. It was fabulous. So I can't recommend enough, work with your vendors. And with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Ben.
Great. So we probably should have been more explicit about this, but the vulnerabilities that were presented here were disclosed in a coordinated fashion with the vendor. They are fixed in stable production releases of the software. The white paper on the CD-ROM has additional details. They have CVE numbers and product errata that would indicate which versions these issues have been fixed in. And also just to thank Omar Santos and the Cisco P-Cert, Ryan Perme of the McAfee P-Cert for the coordination that we received from them. And we have just a couple minutes for some Q questions and answers.
Bueller. Bueller.
I guess we're really good at explaining stuff. There's no questions.
Thank you.